John Hannam. How are we doing, mate? Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Very, very well, Rich, and thank you very much for inviting me on, mate.
That's all right, mate. That's all right. I've been watching you for a little while. Obviously, we've had a few. We've chatted back and forth and stuff, and I just thought I really want to get John on my channel. So yeah, yeah. Um,
Much appreciated.
that's all right, mate. Crazy scenes at the moment. Obviously, we had the local elections yesterday. Some of the counts are still ongoing. Some are already in. Reform are absolutely smashing it, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you've seen all sort of national polls that have been coming out over the course of the last year, and they've been topping them all. But this is the first real test, I suppose, from a proper electoral point of view, and they seem to be delivering. They seem to have sort of hit the targets, and yeah, absolutely seems to be winning probably more seats even than they maybe thought they were going to, which can only be positive for the country, I guess.
Yeah, it's always interesting, isn't it, to see what actually happens? Because, like you say, I think many people were kind of slightly worried that Reform weren't going to do as well as maybe we want them to do at this stage. But on the other side, you've got the Greens, who I think they thought they were going to absolutely smash it, and it's not been the case, has it?
I think the wheels have fallen off the Greens a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I think initially they were on a bit of a sort of a high, a bit of a surge, and people were buying into them. And then a few things have obviously come out about Polanski since the attack in Bethnal Green a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, in Golders Green a couple of weeks ago. And then also the link to sort of the Muslim vote. I think people are starting to see through them a little bit. And you're right. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of results still to come out today, but on the face of it so far, they don't seem to have smashed it quite as much as everyone was being led to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There are even so. I mean, you saw the footage of the Reform candidate. I'm sure many people have. She's a lady. I think I think she might be Indian or something like that, and she's knocking on someone's door, and she's saying, "Oh, I'm your candidate. I'm your candidate." No, she says, I'm your local councillor." It's on a Ring
Yeah.
doorbell. I'll drop the footage in now.
Yes, what is that, please?
Hello, yes, I'm here. I'm one of the local councillors.
Council candidate?
No, you're not a local councillor.
No, she's a candidate.
I'm a candidate
For which party?
for Reform.
Yeah, not interested. Thank you.
So she started shouting through the letterbox when they didn't answer the door. She's telling them through the Ring camera, "Oh, I'm your councillor, I'm your councillor," and she's literally got a handler behind her saying, "No, you're a candidate, you're a
Prompting her, I
candidate."
know, it's all right.
Yeah, well, she's absolutely tanked. Like she barely got any votes, so she's lost there. I think a lot of people have said, haven't they, like, "Oh, social media isn't really the real world," but it's. I think it's definitely playing a key role now. Like you just said, Zach Polanski, he came out and said that he was traumatized by the footage of that terrorist getting his head kicked in. I mean, how anyone could find that traumatizing? Personally, I thought it was beautiful
Absolutely,
to
yeah.
watch.
I mean,
But I
I
think,
don't
yeah, I think.
necessarily. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily always put my trust in the police and how they've been behaving, but I think on that occasion, the vast majority of the countries would say they got it absolutely right.
Yeah, I think, and it was so refreshing to see the Met Police come out straight away, and it was pretty much instant to say, "Look, we've reviewed the footage, we fully support our officers,"
Yeah.
and it was shut down straight away. So that's beautiful, beautiful to see. I want to talk to you a little bit about the threats that we're facing in the UK right now. And I've watched some of your interviews with the likes of Liam Tufts. Obviously, I've been through your social media and all the rest of it, and you
Sure.
talk about many different things. What do you think is the biggest threat facing the UK right now?
I was thinking about this yesterday, funnily enough, and I think we have what I would describe as short to medium term threats and then the longer term threat. I guess the short to medium term threat is the one that we're all feeling, which is very much sort of economic and social. It's just paying the bills, it's rising unemployment, it's interest rates going back up, it's food costs going through the roof, fuel costs going through the roof, and what seems to be sort of a general societal breakdown. If you look at what happened in Clapham, was it 2 3 weeks ago when those gangs of kids were sort of running riot in the high street? I think that happened 2 nights on the trot. So I see that as sort of in the short term. That's what we've all got to deal with. How do we pay the bills? How do we keep our jobs? How do we stop society breaking down, etc., etc.? I think more over the medium to long term, the biggest threat that I see, and I keep dropping myself in the shit for saying this, is the rise of Islam and political Islam. And it's not just it's not so much even about the religion, because I tend to divide the religion from the people. I don't want to denigrate every Muslim in the country in any way, shape, or form, because there are millions of really good people, the same as there are great Jews and Hindus and Christians and everything else. But I think Islam as an ideology is very much about it's acquisitive. It's about taking over. It's about becoming the predominant religion in pretty much every country that it lands in. And they make no secret about that. Most of the imams and the sort of senior
Mm.
people you see speaking don't try and hide that. And what we've seen, I think, over the course of the last year or so, particularly, and even in these recent elections, is that it's becoming very political. There's loads and loads of independent candidates now. There's local areas like Tower Hamlets that are being completely sort of run and dominated, and it's very cliquey, it's very community based, and it's very insular. And a lot of it is based on sort of overseas politics rather than British politics. And I see that as a real growing problem and a growing threat that's got to be countered. Because I think if we don't do anything about it
Mm.
now, in 10 years' time, we're going to have a massive issue. We won't know what to do about it.
Well, we've just seen the Greens have just won in Hackney, and they've
Oh, really? I didn't see that. Okay.
yeah, so they've just won in Hackney, and they've come out and they said that their two pressing priorities right now are going to be budgeting, fair enough, and the second
Yep.
one is genocide. That's all they've said, genocide. Um, I think a lot of people they have disagreed with me before, but I think the Greens are being used as a kind of Trojan horse for Islam. We've seen comments online, comments have been made publicly of people within the Islamic community saying, "Don't worry, brothers, we'll just ride it out with the Greens, and then
Yeah.
when our time is right, we'll take over." I think I completely agree with you. I think Islam is fundamentally it's not the type of religion. It's not like other religions, is it, where they keep themselves to themselves, and if you don't want to be part of that religion, they just kind of leave you to it. And they I think with Islam, it's kind of it's the case where no, if they're going to come to a country, and we've seen it everywhere where they'll go to a country and they want that country to adapt to them. They don't adapt to the country. It's very worrying. You said you've come under quite a lot of stick for talking about Islam. What kind of what are you talking?
Well,
Is
you
it just
you get,
trolls?
I
Have you had
mean,
death threats?
I haven't had death threats. No, it hasn't gone that far. But I do get a lot of abuse online. I'm sure you do across your social media as well. You get the
Yeah.
usual accusations of being a Zionist and a shill and on Netanyahu's payroll, etc., etc. Which, if I am, then he's definitely sending the checks to the wrong address because I haven't got any of them. And just to
Seven
put the
grand a
record
tweet,
straight as well,
apparently, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. But it's not like I'm a big fan of Israel either. I mean, I support Israel's right to exist. Absolutely. I think they should have a country. But in terms of how they behave, how they go about things, they've got a right to defend themselves. I absolutely agree with that as well. But I do believe they went massively over the top in Gaza. And I think they've done an awful lot of things wrong. So I'm no great friend of theirs. But my interest is purely and solely this country, what happens on our streets, what happens in this country. And I don't want to sound too heartless, but I don't actually care too much about what happens out there. Um, I'm interested in what's happening in Britain. And what irritates and annoys me is that they seem to want to bring the disputes from all corners of the world to play out on our streets. And I'm just not
Hmm.
in agreement with that in any way, shape, or form. This is Britain. It should be about British people. It should be about British needs, British wants, British politics, British economics, not about Palestinian or Gaza or Israeli or Saudi or Pakistani or anywhere else. I'm not interested in those.
Yeah, I
And
completely
because I
agree.
say that, I get quite a lot of stick because of it.
Yeah, you will, because what you're doing is you're not really and I don't believe this is the reason why you're doing it, but when you say that, when you say, look, I don't care, I just want to focus on our country, of course people dying is always, people getting bombed, children, innocent people, of course that is always like it's awful, but we're at a point where we need to look after our own house here before we start,
Absolutely.
trying to look after anyone else's. So I think I've said exactly the same thing, and I agree with you completely. I've had stick for it. People, what, you don't care? You don't care there's been a genocide? You don't care about blah, blah. Well, yes, it's awful. It is awful when people get blown up and shot and killed and all the rest of it. But I kind of want to focus on Britain at the minute because we're sinking fast. You're online every day trying to wake people up, and I think that's how you've described what it is that you're trying to do. But what pushed you into doing that? When was the moment for you where you saw, went, "Do you know what, I'm going to have to speak out and say something here"?
I mean, I've been doing this now for between 18 months and 2 years. And when I first started it, it was more out of curiosity than anything else. I guess what really drives me is that I've got 2 sons. One's 21 and just sort of making his way in the world. The other one's 18. And they are my be all and end all. I would literally do absolutely anything for them. And I look back to when I was their age, when I was 18, 21, and we had it really easy in lots of ways. And not so much necessarily economically. You still had to work hard. I didn't come from a privileged background. But you could live your life and you could expect to get on the housing ladder if you earned reasonably well. You could expect to be able to find a job. You were relatively safe on the streets. We all got in punch ups, we all got in fights, but we didn't have people pulling machetes on us and we didn't have people exploding bombs around us other than potentially the IRA for a little while. And therefore, when I was growing up in the sort of 80s and 90s, it was relatively carefree. And I'm really concerned that my sons sadly don't have a lot of those freedoms and don't necessarily have an easy future to look forward to. How are they going to get on the housing ladder? How are they going to buy property? Are there going to be enough jobs? Are they going to be safe on the streets? Are their girlfriends, kids, etc., going to be safe on the streets? So that's what drives me more than anything else. And a lot of people are saying, well, it's too late, it's gone too far, leave the UK, leave the country. And I totally sympathize with that. I understand it. But I like a fight. I don't ever, ever like giving up or backing down to anyone or anything. And so I think we still have a window of opportunity. I think it's a relatively smallish window. I think if we don't do anything in the next decade, it will be too late. But I think we can turn it around, and I think we need to try to turn it around. And I think you're seeing some evidence of that. I think the narrative has changed a little bit. The Overton window, they call it, what you can discuss publicly, that's definitely shifted in the
Hmm.
last 2 years. I'm not going to claim credit for that. I'm sure you don't claim credit for that. But across all of the people like us that are doing it, from Tommy downwards, it's changing the narrative a little bit. It's changing, and you're seeing that the mainstream political parties are having to adjust. Even the Labour Party. I mean, even Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has had to get a little bit tougher on things like unless she was seeing that the people were starting to speak out about it.
Hmm.
And so that's why I'm doing it really. Um, and again, for complete transparency, it's going well, and I'm starting to earn a little bit of money at it as well. So, and I'm completely open and honest about that. So it's two things really. Partly I see it as something that I sort of my duty, and I want to try and turn things around. And partly, actually, it might end up becoming a job for me as well.
Yeah, well, good on you. I mean, we spoke about this yesterday. You know, it's I always find it kind of funny when you'll get these lefties who will come onto your pages and they'll say things like, "Oh, you're a grifter because you do these videos. You know, it's a grift, it's a scam. You're a con artist or whatever, right?" But they're supporting Zach Polanski, who used to charge women to hypnotize them to grow their breasts. But I think if you're going to be spending your time, your effort, your energy doing what you're doing, speaking to people, waking people up, and you are waking people up because I've seen your comments. I've been through your feeds and all the rest of it. The amount of people who say, "Oh, John, I had no idea about this. Thank you for letting us know."
Yeah.
Doing what you're doing, you're waking people up. So you're doing good for the country, but at the same time, it's a lot of time, effort, and energy. I know only too well. If you can, I mean, I'm demonetized and everything because I've done too many. They're called CTAs, calls to action. So because I've said, let's go out and have a rally or a march or a protest or whatever. I was demonetized last year, but for
Right.
the
Okay.
likes of yourself, and I know there are other people who speak out frequently. It's time, effort, and energy. So if you can earn a little bit of money doing it as well, if these platforms are happy to pay you, it's not a grift. You're just getting rewarded for the time, the
Yeah,
effort,
I
the
mean, I'm
energy that you're
spending
putting in.
probably
So
5, 6 hours a day doing this now. If I worked out my hourly rate, it wouldn't be the minimum wage even. And I've still got 2 other businesses that I run alongside it. So, my wife often isn't very happy because I spend all evening, every evening on my phone, editing, posting, cross-posting, et cetera, et cetera. So it is hours every day. So I make no bones about the fact that if I can make a few quid out of it, I'm not in the least bit embarrassed or ashamed about that. And I equally, I think we have a little bit of a culture of jealousy in this country where we don't want to see people be successful. And I'm the opposite. I want everyone to do well. If I can help you or any of the other people doing similar things and give them a leg up and help boost their profile, then I will. Because why shouldn't we all be doing well? And I do mean everyone, even people I wouldn't necessarily agree with. I want everyone to be
hmm,
relatively able to pay their way and well off and earn money. That's got to be the society we want for everyone, isn't it?
Ideally, yeah. Sounds a bit socialist for me. No, I'm only joking. Yeah, I no, I completely agree. I think, I think, yeah, that we have a huge issue with jealousy in this country. A friend of mine, actually, very well off. He moved to America a couple of years ago, and um, he was doing stuff with like they call them NFTs, and basically he's doing like
Yeah.
the what is it? It's like trading, and he does all that sort of stuff. Did very very well for himself. Moved to America a couple of years ago, and when he was living down south, he drove a Porsche, and it got
Right.
keyed constantly. It got battered in car parks. He had people, they do little things. They cut in front of him and stuff like that. And he moved to America, and he drives a Ferrari now. He's doing really well, so good for him. But he drives a Ferrari now, and he said the amount of people who will just come up to you in America and say, "Hey, nice car, man. Hey, I love your
Yeah.
car," and they'll just talk to him about the car. And these are people who are driving, a Ford pickup truck or something, and they're happy for him, and they're like celebrating, like, "Oh, you've done really well." It's a completely different culture here, isn't it? When people do well, I think because most of us are quite miserable in our day-to-day lives. I think a lot
It's
of
true,
people kind of
unfortunately.
take, yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people kind of find some sort of, I don't know if thrill's the right word in trying to drag other people down as well. Um, you just said you've been doing this for 18 months, 2 years. I've only been doing it a year myself. Would you say you've noticed more people are more willing to speak up now and come forward, or do you feel like perhaps we've kind of ended up in an echo chamber and what we're talking about isn't really part of the real world?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think naturally by doing this, you get to meet a lot of other people of similar mindsets. You end up in WhatsApp groups, you end up exchanging ideas with people, you get contacted with people. And I think there's an element of starting to believe that that's the real world, when in reality, it's probably not. Um, Obviously, I have contact with people. I mean, I don't know if you find this. I'm starting to find it a little bit weird. I keep getting recognised. I was walking around to vote yesterday evening,
Happened
and a fella
today,
pulled
yeah.
up in a car. I went, "Oh, ordinary guy ran." I went, "Yeah, hello, mate." Blah, blah, blah. I'm starting to get that, and I find that quite odd, to be honest. So I do think there's an element of it's a bit of an echo chamber, and we're all sort of fluffing each other up and patting each other on the back. But I do think also more people are starting to become aware of the wider issues, and I think social media has helped with that. I mean, social media is a good and a bad in equal measure. You can get dragged into it; it can become all consuming, and I think for younger people there are real issues with it. But also from an exchange of ideas point of view and an awareness of what's going on in the world, if we just had to rely on the Sun, the Times, the Guardian, and BBC News, we'd all be in deep trouble. So I think there's good and bad to it, and I definitely do think that we sometimes have to step outside of the bubble that we're in and stop talking to each other and talk to some other people in the real world as well. But I do think we are having an
Mm.
effect.
Yeah, I agree. I was in Tesco today, and I had a chicken, some sillet bang, and then because I refused to pay for a bag, mate, so I had a whole chicken, uh, a thing of sillet bang, and some pull up nappies for my son because he's been doing like potty training and stuff. So at night time
Yeah,
we put him in a pull up nappy, and I just heard Richard, Richard, and you just because I'm still quite new to this, but it happens quite often. So I always just assume that it's like
yeah,
someone I know, and I turn around and I thought I haven't got a clue who this lady is. And she went, "I follow you on Facebook." She said, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing and
yeah,
setting up the branch in Chester for Restore and stuff." And like we had a really nice conversation. And it's just
yeah,
it's when things. I think I don't want to get too like too doom and gloom. I find doing what we do quite lonely because there are many of us doing it, but I kind of feel like how would I word this? I kind of feel like when you're talking to the camera and you're talking about the issues that for example, I sometimes I will talk to the camera and I think, God, I just want to wake people up. I just want to say to people, look, this is what's happening. Here's the proof. This is what's going on. We need to come together. We need to unify. We need to do it peacefully, lawfully, but we need to take control of this. And I kind of feel like a lot of the time, 99% of the audience will agree, but they won't really do very much to
yeah,
participate. And I think it can get quite lonely sometimes trying to trying to enthuse these people. But it is nice sometimes when you see people in public and they say, oh, I've seen it, crack on, nice one. well done and thank you sort of thing. So yeah, I agree. I think we are having an effect in the real world. I think it's going to take a bit of time. It's going to take a little bit longer. I think with these recent election results, I think UTK could be a really good opportunity to get many people into London to say, look, we want Starmer out, we want him gone. So I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm sure it will be, um, as big or if not, hopefully bigger than it was last year. If you were in charge tomorrow, if you took over, if you were in number 10, what would be the first thing you would change? And I know that's really broad, mate, but what would be the first thing you'd focus on?
I think I come back to the first point I made about sort of short-term concerns and long-term concerns. I think we're in a real hole, and we want to turn the country around, but at the same time, people need to be able to feed themselves. People need to be able to get to work. We need to get the economy growing because we are in a bit of a doom loop, a doom spiral downwards. So I think changes in the regulatory environment, changes in the taxation environment, just take off the shackles, let everyone go for it, let people run businesses, let people grow businesses, reduce the burden on small businesses, just try and get everything motoring again. Because I think if you get that, you start to have a societal effect as well. People will have a bit more of a smile on their face because they're not just panicking about paying the bills every minute of the day. People are able to possibly go on holiday if they can afford a holiday. It just the mood lifts everywhere. And I do think what you
Mm.
said about everyone's a bit doom and gloom, it does feel like you're walking around, it feels like you're dragging your heels through mud a lot of the time. And I want the country to be a positive place. We are an amazing country. We're an incredible country. You look at what we've achieved over the centuries. We should be top of the hill, and we're sort of not. And we haven't been for quite a long time now. And I think we need to recapture that mood. So I guess my first step would be to be let's create some positivity. Let's get everyone feeling good. Let's get everyone having little bit of money in their pocket. And how do we do that? Well, we have to get the economy booming, and we have to put smiles on people's faces. I know that sounds a bit woolly and a bit sort of difficult to achieve, but I guess that would be my first step. And then second step, we've got to address the immigration and the demographic issue in the country, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think there are so many issues, happening at once. We've got digital ID, which is, I mean, it's here. A lot of people will post online, I will not comply, etc. But I mean, the fact that you post online means that you've signed terms and conditions which tie
Yeah.
you into digital ID. It's here. The net zero. I mean, 55% of our energy bills are net zero taxes. Essentially, they're taxes that have
Yeah.
been put onto our bills. If you're paying £100 for your electric, £55 of that are
Yeah.
essentially carbon taxes, which are then divvied up into little bits. We've got the fact that inheritance taxes, with our farmers, the fact that our elderly, they literally they're freezing to death in their own homes every single winter, homes that they've bought and paid for, they've worked their whole lives
Yeah.
for, and now the system simply can't support them, or it won't support them. There are so many issues. Cost of living, food now is so expensive. Like I say, I was at Tesco today, and the amount of times I picked something up and I thought, I'm not paying it. I can't pay
I
it.
know.
Like, it's just
It's crazy.
basic items. There's so much wrong at the minute. Do you think perhaps there is too much emphasis on immigration, because that seems to be the hot topic right now? Um, but I have a lot of people say to me, that's the most important thing. But then I have a lot of other people say, actually, it's not the most important thing. What do you think?
Whether it's the most important or not, I don't know. I do think it is important because I actually think quite a lot of the other issues springboard off of that. I mean, the population has grown this century. I think depends which estimate you believe. I think the lower end is 8 million, the upper end is 12 million. We don't actually really know how many people are in the country anyway. So, but trying to accommodate 8 to 12 million extra people in terms of the cost of living, in terms of housing. Why is housing so expensive? Whether you're buying a house or whether you're renting a property, well, if it's basic supply and demand. If you've got 10 million more people needing to be housed, then clearly that's going to drive up the cost of housing. If you're
Mm,
trying to find school places for people, if you're trying to get yourself a GP appointment, if you're trying to get yourself a hospital operation done, etc., etc., if we could go back to the population we had in the year 2000, and obviously we're not going to be able to do that, but if we could, then I think a lot of the cost of living issues, a lot of the financial issues, a lot of the social issues probably would go away. So is it the most important issue? probably not the most important, but is it important? Yeah, I think it really is. And I think it's changing not just the country from a sort of an infrastructure point of view, it's definitely changing it from a cultural and a societal point of view. Um, and I'm not convinced that it's changing it in a very positive way.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I think there's such an emphasis on illegal immigrations, isn't it? You know, the boat people, and it almost seems like the mainstream media themselves, we see it every single day. Here are shots from Dover, you know, here are shots from, I can't remember the name of the other port that they come to now. It's completely gone from my head. You might be able to remember.
Folkestone,
There's
maybe?
another one. There's
Don't know.
Folkestone. There's actually a
Yeah,
third. I can't remember, but we see the shots every single day of these boats arriving, these people coming in, and it'll be 40, 50, 60, sometimes 100 at a time. But actually, I think many of us are overlooking legal immigration, and I think in a lot of
completely.
ways, legal immigration is far worse. I mean, there are far more people coming in legally than there are illegally. And the issue is, I mean, I've spoken about this before, and people say, yeah, but they're not illegal. So what's the problem? I say, well, because a lot of these people, they're still coming here from different cultures, fine, but they don't necessarily want to integrate into ours.
Yeah,
You've got Somalians, 73% of Somalians who have come here legally do not work. So
yeah,
they're not having a net positive effect on the country. So why are they here? Now, when I've said in the past, for me, you know, foreign criminals would be gone. Um, I would get rid of, you know, foreigners who have come here and, you know, they've not worked for 6 months. Well, why? Oh, I've got
yeah,
anxiety, I've got depression. Okay, go away. These people who are milking the system, um, get them gone. And when you say that, people say that's really racist. Well, no, it's not. It's just basic maths. We cannot afford to support people, whether they're here legally or illegally, for the rest of their lives and their families as well, because they're all coming here and having children using the NHS. Our infrastructure's collapsing. We can't afford them. Housing is like, you know, you've just touched on yourself. It's not sustainable. So, which would you say is? I mean, I imagine you're probably going to say that legal immigration is worse, but just before we move on, is there anything like that you disagree
yeah. I
with?
mean, the thing is, I think people sort of obviously the illegal immigration is a problem because with the illegal immigration, we don't really know who these people are. It is 90% men, and we have no idea of their background. At least with legal immigration, you do have to go through the hoops, they have to provide identity details. They typically are coming here either on a student visa or on a work visa or as a family member of someone who's already here. So we've got a little bit more of a background understanding. So the illegal immigration from a danger and a crime point of view is more of an issue. But in terms of an infrastructure and a just being able to cope with people, then the legal immigration is by far the bigger problem. I mean, I put a video out, I think 3 or 4 days ago, talking about they were celebrating the fact that the latest set of immigration figures have just come out, and net immigration for the year up until I think it was June 25 was down to 204,000. So we had a net number of 204,000 arrivals. The total number of arrivals, I think, was 898,000. The total number leaving was 698,000 or whatever that works out at. But the problem within that was that of the people that left, 109,000 of them were Brits, 70,000 of them were EU nationals, and the number coming in from non-EU countries was a plus of 398,000 people.
Hmm.
So we essentially lost 170,000 Brits or Europeans and gained nearly 400,000 people from probably Africa, Asia, South America, wherever it might have been. Now, a lot of people would say, well, so what? Well, the issue is that from an integration and a cultural point of view, that just creates issues because however they might be great people, but they're still going to have completely different backgrounds, completely different habits, completely different languages, etc., etc. And that just piles pressure on the country. And that's in a good year. That's much lower than it has been. I
Hmm.
think net figure 2, 3 years ago was 700 odd thousand. And as you say, it's a numbers game. It's completely and utterly unsustainable. So two different problems. The legal one is the problem from a numbers point of view, and the illegal one certainly from a crime and a not knowing who they are perspective.
Yeah, I mean I mean we're talking about people who are leaving and then the people coming in, but we've also, you know, naturally the next part of the conversation I suppose should go to the people who are staying here, who were born here. I mean, we're seeing a complete breakdown now, aren't we, in our culture and also in the nuclear, you know, British family. Um,
Yeah.
I, I really worry. I mean, obviously the replacement theory is seen as like conspiracy, but when you actually look at the figures, it's there. It's proof. You can't deny it. We are not having enough babies to sustain ourselves. And again, I've touched on this on social media. I've said, we're not having enough babies. We need to be having more if possible. And the amount of backlash I got because not everyone can have a baby, and I get that. And I'm not blaming people, um, general people per se. It's a cultural issue. We're being told that men can be women and women can be men. Um, young adults now, they go, I mean, of course, we all, experimented back in the day, or we all got up to what we got up to back in the day, John. I know no one's whiter than white, but now this culture of kind of being a they them and not having a gender and being really nefarious is kind of pushed and it's celebrated, and there's an element of pride to that. And having a family as a woman is, that's not what you need to be. Building a career, and you need to be, doing all you can to take the man's job off him. And there are so many issues now. You can get into the fact that our food is, I mean, women with polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, is going through the roof because of things like
Yeah,
the over processed food that's being the
microplastics
amount
in
of
our food and the
estrogen,
processed food. Yeah,
100% microplastics. The fact that we've got heavy amounts of estrogen in our drinking water that's literally coming out of our taps. It's making men more feminine. It's being proven. There are so
yeah.
many issues. We're kind of being replaced, but at the same time, we're not really, as a people, doing very much ourselves to kind of fight back against that, which is so worrying. Talking about masculinity here, do you think, and I probably know the answer to this as well, do you think we need to bring back kind of old school masculinity? And I know I'm not, a manly man, but I believe, so when I talk about masculinity before, because people always have a go at me for this, I'm talking about a man who protects, who does what he can to provide, who looks after those who, children, women, and even the weak or the vulnerable. To me, that's what true masculinity is. Do you think we need to bring back that kind of old school masculinity?
100%, 1000%. Funnily enough, I had this discussion on Liam Tuff's interview, and I,
I may have
for
stolen it to
right or
talk
for
about it here.
for right or wrong, consider myself quite an old-fashioned man. And funnily enough, I've brought those traits up in my two sons as well. And by that, it is very much about you've got two sides of masculinity. You have got the physical capacity side, and I do think that it's good for a man to be relatively physically capable. I don't mean you go around having punch ups left, right, and centre, but you need to be able to look after yourself if and when it happens. But it's more about um, morals, ethics. It's silly things like opening a door for people. It's looking after the weak, looking after the frail, wanting to be the man of the family that pays the way, that is a provider for the family. Um, and my morals in that front are really quite old fashioned. I probably would be more at home in the 50s and 60s than I am now. But I think, unfortunately, I think they call it toxic masculinity, don't they? It's been a phrase. I don't know where that phrase came from, but it's suddenly found its way into our sort of dialogue over the course of the last 20 years, as if being a man, being a bit of an alpha male is a bad thing. I don't think it is. I think there are men that are alpha males that are idiots, but I don't think it should be. I think the desire to want to provide for people, the desire to want to be the protector, whether that's of your family, whether it's of your grandma, whether it's of somebody in your street, your neighbor, whatever it might be, I think has got to be a good desire. And I think in losing that, you open your whole society up to falling apart because you've got to have people that are willing to draw a line in the sand and say, no, we're not doing that. That's not the right way to go. This is the right way to go. This is what we need to do. And I'm going to stick up for my family or kids or wife or daughters
Hmm.
or grandmother or whatever. And I was brought up, my dad always brought me up to, he always said, you look after the small person. So the person you treat well is the car park attendant, the waiter in the restaurant, the woman working behind the counter at Tesco. They're the ones that you have dialogue with, that you make sure you always tip, that you make sure that you take care of. The people that are wealthy, the people that are the chief executives or the celebrities don't need your help. Sod them. It's about
Hmm.
protecting downwards, not protecting upwards. And that's how I see masculinity. But for some reason, that's become denigrated and frowned upon. And that's just another fight that I have with everyone about it all the time.
Yeah, well, I think it's a phrase. Basically, I don't believe toxic masculinity exists. I think there's no such thing. I think if a man is masculine, he, as we've just agreed on there, the primary role is to essentially look after people. And the moment I think
Yeah.
a man is being toxic or he's throwing his weight about to, to bully or to do anything negative, that in itself is not masculinity. So my argument is the moment a man becomes toxic in that way, or, like I say, he's throwing his weight around to bully people and stuff, that's not masculinity. That's just a fucking bully. That's not a man to
Yeah.
me. So this whole toxic masculinity argument is, it doesn't exist. There's no such thing. Again, it's something that's been created by
Yeah.
the establishment, by, I believe, the globalists, to say to men, look, stop having an edge, stop having the ability. And that's the thing. I will never go out my way to start a fight, but I believe all men, part of being, a masculine man, truly masculine, is having the ability to. And I
Yeah.
think when you have men who all have the capability for violence, it stops a lot of violence, because you'll see it yourself when two men disagree. They both know that one wrong move and it could become physical. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what generally stops it from becoming physical, if that makes sense.
I totally agree. And as I say, I'm not particularly a fighter, and I've never started one. But if you put me in a corner, I'm more than happy to.
Yeah.
And I think it's about having the ability to know when to flick the switch and when not, and the ability to be out. Being masculine is knowing when to be able to walk away and when to be able to defuse things and calm things down. It's not having a hair trigger temper and lashing out every single time. It's 90% of the time being able to diffuse it, but the 10% of the
Mm.
time, if you have to, you will and you can and you will do something about it. And that seems to be frowned upon. I don't know why that is. I think it might be making a little
Because
bit
they
of a
want weak
comeback. I
men.
think everything goes in cycles, but I think it might be making a little bit of a comeback. I'm seeing more people talking about it and starting to sort of reassert themselves. I'm hoping that everything is cyclical, isn't it, in life and in society. So maybe we've gone through the 20, 30, 40 years of us men being sort of put down and denigrated, and maybe we're going to make a comeback.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I see it from a lot of women now. We had it for years where it was like, oh, women like a man who's in touch with his feminine side. And yes, okay, that may be the case. But we're seeing so many women now coming forward saying publicly, no, I want a manly man. I want, not necessarily big muscles and all the rest of it, but a lot of women now, they're crying out for men to be men.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to a very controversial figure. His name is Tommy. Now, I won't say his full name because it
Yeah.
absolutely destroys me on the algorithm. It happened to me last week. I actually had my video taken down because I mentioned his name. It's since been put back up because I've had to edit his name out. You're backing him, aren't you? But not only that, are you allowed to talk about what you're doing with UTK?
Yeah.
What your role is there?
So I do back him. I actually do a little bit of freelance work for his media company, which just came about through chance more than anything else. So I've met a few of the people sort of around him. I'll be at UTK next week. Fortunate enough to have got backstage passes, and I'll be doing some interview work, interviewing the crowd, interviewing some of the people that are speaking, doing some crowd shots, making videos, and to be honest, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty hectic day. So yes, I do support him. Don't know him well. Wouldn't claim to be a friend or even really an acquaintance. Met him a couple of times, but only very briefly. Um, but yes, I give him my backing. I think weirdly enough, I think it dovetails into a couple of the things we've already discussed about, for example, masculinity, obviously around immigration and obviously around how society is changing and the nuclear family. Most of those things I sort of agree with him on in terms of we should be going back to trying to promote British families and people to have kids, and we need to be allowing men to be masculine and stand up for themselves. And a lot of those issues, I think I'm in sync with him on. I'm aware there's a load of baggage behind it. But again, my understanding is that a lot of that baggage has been put upon him by the state. And I've got a
Mm,
lot of admiration for the fact that he's gone through 15 years of absolute hell. I think most people would have crumbled a long, long time ago, and to have not crumbled, but not only to have not crumbled, but to have come back fighting and risen above it all and got to where he's got to now, he's pretty admirable. And all of us have got faults. Listen, I've
Hmm.
got a cupboard full of skeletons, and I think
Let's
most
talk
people have.
about
I'm sure.
those. No, I'm joking. I'm
Oh, no,
joking.
no, definitely not. But I'm sure most of us have. But with
Yeah.
him, most of these have just been completely publicised and thrown out there in public. And I think it's very difficult to become a man of influence without having trod on a lot of toes and broken a lot of eggs. Um,
Hmm.
and the establishment absolutely hate him. And for me, anyone hated by the establishment is probably doing something right.
Yeah. The man. I mean, I make no secret of it. I'm going to be at UTK. I'm not going to be as busy as you.
Yeah,
But I'll see you there. I'll be backstage. I'm kind of going in my own personal capacity. I'm going with friends
sure.
because he's a friend of friends. But I mean, I've spoke to him. I've dropped him a message. We've had phone calls and voice notes back and forth and stuff. And the man works like an absolute
I know.
demon. He's on the go constantly, and just the workload alone would have put me on my arse. I wouldn't be able to do it. But the fact
Yeah,
that he does it whilst also getting constant flack from the left. You go on anything he posts on social media and you go into the comment sections and it's ruthless. It's absolutely
yeah,
ruthless. He pays no notice. He keeps his head down. He keeps going. The establishment, 15 years, like you say, nearly 20 years of just, he's been constantly beaten down and beaten down and beaten down, and things have been twisted and made out to be, he's been lied about so many times, and then he's come out and he's justified it, but people choose not to believe him even though he's got the evidence. It's just, he's done so much, I believe, for the country, and the like he's such a threat to the establishment, like you say. He's I kind of worry about him, to be honest with you. Because like I've been told, I won't say who by, but we only, as the general public, we only know like 5% was what I was told of the stuff he's actually been through. So yeah, I support him as well fully. I get loads of people saying to me, "Do you support him?" I do support him. I think he's a good man. He's not perfect, none of us are, but it is what it is. Do you think Britain can be saved?
yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm
We
doing and wouldn't be making a fool of myself in front of the camera 24 hours a day. Um, but I don't think it's going to be easy, and I don't think it's going to be quick. And I think we need to change a lot of things for it to be happen. I think we're sort of on the tipping point. I think, as I say, we've got a limited window, whether that's 5 years or 10 years at most. I think it can be turned around. I think we have to do it partly as a society and a culture, and partly politically. Um, the next election, the next general election, I think is critical. I think if you get
Mm,
an alliance of whether it's Labour or Greens or Labour Lib Dems or Greens Lib Dems or whatever it might be, I think if they win, I think we're finished. Because I think by the time the following election comes around 5 years after that, it could well be too late. So my concern, I guess, is that the parties of the right are fractured as well, and that's a real
mm,
worry. I mean, my natural inclination, the way I see it, you've got three leaders of sort of the right wing political party. So you've got obviously Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe for Restore, and Ben Habib for Advance, and they've all got their qualities. Nigel Farage has probably been the single most influential politician in this country this century in the last 25 years, and he's got some fabulous qualities. And Reform are the ones absolutely in the driving seat at the moment. I just have a little bit of doubt as to whether they are watering down their offering a little bit and moving a little bit too centrist and too establishment. And I understand that because they want to win the election and they want to try and get as many people on board with them as they can. So I get that. Rupert Lowe for me is the main man because I think he's absolutely got the backbone and the sort of not give a shit attitude that we need. Unfortunately, we're going to have to be ruthless to turn it around, and I don't think he's for bending. And Ben Habib, I see as sort of the behind the scenes genius and the sort of the deal maker. I think he's a very intelligent guy. I went to the Advance conference back in February, I think it was, and was really impressed with everyone I met, and really impressed with the amount of detail they've put into all of their policy documents. And so the best case scenario would be for those three to put their differences behind them and to come together and sort of bring themselves together. I don't think egos are going to allow that to happen, sadly. Um, but you never know; it might happen. But So yeah, I think one of those must win the next election. If they don't, I think we're in deep trouble.
Yeah, yeah, I tend to agree. I think I think there is light at the end of the tunnel because, I mean, just looking at the elections, the locals that we've just seen yesterday, and now the results are still coming out today. I think there is a very real shift. Yes, Labour have kept hold of some seats. How, I will never know. The Greens have won some as well. I think they've won about 40. But Reform are just absolutely storming it right now. So I think that says a lot about how a lot of people in the country are feeling. And I think we're seeing really high, like record turnouts in some areas. I know
That's right. Yeah.
in Great Yarmouth, where Great Yarmouth First, who are part of Restore Britain with Rupert Lowe, the turnout for the last elections was around, I think it was 23%, and now it's 48. So the turnout's doubled, which I think is very telling. I mean, the last general election was at 25 million people didn't vote, and now
Yeah.
people are actually getting up off their arses. People are engaged, and people are going down to their local polling stations, and they're putting crosses in boxes now. Which, for me, that is the light at the end of the tunnel. And the fact that Reform are doing so well right now tells me that right now we're kind of moving in the right direction. So I suppose that's the happy part to take away from this interview today. John, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I will see you at UTK. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, mate. I'll see you there. I'm getting there bright and breezy. I'll be there all day. So hopefully we'll find some time to grab a beer at some point rather than just work, work, work.
Oh, mate, yes. And for anyone watching this, if you're on the fence about whether you're going to go to UTK or not, seriously, last year it was the best environment. I think it was the best atmosphere, and it had the greatest sense of unity and togetherness that I've ever witnessed in my life. So, yes, if you're listening to this, please get to UTK, and if you see me or John, come and say hello. Thank you very
Yeah,
much for
by all
watching.
means, come and say hello. I'll have a microphone with me. I'll be doing some interviews with people. So please come up and say hello. And you never know, you might end up on camera.
Hey, there you go. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.